This is our first cross-country ski clinic of the season, and I watched a weather report about half an hour ago, and looking pretty good. It's going to be real elevation-driven snow, so it's going to be up in the, the ridges, more. So we're going to talk about skis, boots, poles, bindings, how to fit, how to choose equipment, and we're going to talk about what to take, how to be warm and comfortable, and give you an idea about some places to go locally. So the first real indications of Nordic skiing were drawings on a cave wall in Norway. They thought were about 10,000 years old, and they were really long boards with upturned tips. They steamed them, and they had leather bindings, and they used one long pole for propulsion, for turning, and for controlling speed. Of course, then things evolved. My first downhill skis had cable bindings, metal cable bindings. Guess I just dated myself, didn't I? But then skis developed more. There were a lot of people in Europe telemark skiing. It was a ski similar to an alpine ski with a leather boot, and the heel was free. So you could tour on the flats, you could put a skin on the bottom. They were actually animal skins back then, now they're nylon skins. And you'd skin up, take the skins off, and you could ski down and have a fair amount of control. Telemark turn is a bent knee turn. And then in the 20s, they started to develop ski lifts, in Europe and over here. Hope I get my history right, I think in the 30s. And then the sports really started to go in two different directions. You had the touring equipment and alpine skiing, sort of as we know it now. Most of the skis we used to sell were wooden skis. They had a hickory base. You put pine tar or grunwald in the base to protect it. They were all waxable skis. They were, had 22 to 30 different laminations in them. They're beautiful skis. They're still around. They're really pretty easy to wax, fun to ski. You don't see them as much anymore because of durability. With the advent of fiberglass skis, fiberglass is heavier than wood, but they use so little of it that the fiberglass skis are actually lighter, and stronger. There's two different categories of skis. There's a traditional length ski where the skis are narrower and quite a bit longer. Those skis fit, the way you fit those skis is you want to hold your arm above your head and the ski will hit the middle of your wrist. And those are the traditional length skis that are good for a lot of different terrain. Being longer, they glide really well. Being longer, they're a little more difficult to turn if you're getting on steeper terrain. The new categories of skis come in fewer sizes, and the ski doesn't know how tall you are, but it knows how much you weigh. So these are in weight categories. There are 3 to 4 sizes instead of 6, or 7 sizes. These skis tend to be shorter, wider. You get the same amount of flotation because you have the same amount of surface area as a long ski because the ski is wider. You get a little more side-to-side stability because of the width, and you get good flotation. But they're easier to turn, maybe just a tad slower, but again, the side-to-side stability is really nice. All the skis have, the tip is, unless you're getting into a racing ski or a totally in-track ski, these skis all have a side cut to them. The tip is the widest, the waist is the narrowest, and the tail is in between. And that's a curved edge. So when you put the ski on edge a little bit and put pressure, it's a curved edge. You can see this a lot in alpine skis, and that's what enables you to turn. When the ski's flat, it'll track, pretty much in a straight line. But they all have some sort of side cut. They also have camber. Do we have a split pair here? The skis will all have some sort of camber, which is this distance between the skis here, and different flexes. The higher performance skis will have more camber and a stiffer flex. They take more energy to ski, but your weight is transferred to the tip and tail more, so you get more glide. They take more energy to grip, but you get better glide. So it's all about performance. The skis are kind of categorized in waist width. This would be a light touring ski. This would be designed mostly in track, somewhat out of track. It doesn't have as much side cut, so the track is doing the turning. We don't really have machine groomed tracks around here, but there are places. We bought a human propelled one for Tudick Park, many years ago. So you may find some tracks there. You go into New England, you certainly do. They'll groom with about a 12-foot wide smooth area for skate skiing, and then there'll be classic skiing tracks on either side. When you're skiing in a set of groomed tracks like that, you have a maximum tip width of about 65, maybe to 68 millimeters, because you can't have a ski that's wider than the track. It does damage the track, and it'll tend to try to climb out of the track because of the wider tip. We don't have groomed tracks here, although if you're in maybe 6 or 8 inches of snow, the fourth person's in a set of tracks. And if you're out on the golf course after a dozen or 20 people have been there, there's a lot of tracks. So you're in somebody's track. Even if we go out in a foot of new snow, the fourth person's in, somewhat of a set of tracks. Certainly if you bring, take the tracks back home again. So even, and then we talk about the snowmobiles as being the Pennsylvania, groomer. So we get deep snow, they go out and pack it down, and, we go ski it. So this is a light touring ski, mostly in track, somewhat out. This would be like a sedan. This would be your Honda Accord, let's say. You take another step up to a ski that's slightly wider, and you're going to get into a general touring ski, and that's a ski that is fine in the track, but it's also designed to ski a lot of out-of-track skiing. Maybe you're breaking a trail, or you're with a few people and there's not a really good set of tracks there because everybody's skiing a little bit different. So this is a general touring. This would be your crossover, SUV, sort of ski. Probably the best ski for around here. It goes anywhere. You can ski the golf courses, but you can go out to the game lands, up in the mountains, go to Black Moshannon, and this ski will pretty much do it all. And then you can get into skis that have they're yet a little bit wider, maybe have a metal edge through 3/4 of the ski. That's your Toyota 4Runner. That's your 4-wheel drive. And the metal edge will give you better control going downhill. And I'll get into it, but you're going to match up a little bit stiffer boot to be able to control that ski really well. And then you get into, on either side of that are your racing skis, which are super narrow, a lot of camber, really stiff for skating or, classic skiing. And then on the other end are you get into your alpine skis with free heel skiing. And that's alpine touring. The French call it randonnée. Telemark skiers in the US say that randonnée is French for I can't telly. So we joke about them. Telly skiers are going to use telemark equipment. They're not going. The AT stuff is easier, to ski, but it's Tussey has a lot of uphill skiing now, even. So it's a system where your heel's free, put skins on, get up to the top, take the skin off, lock your heel down, and you have an alpine system. So those are on the other sides of these. Again, the shorter, wider traditional skis, the new skis, you go by weight charts more than height. So that's kind of generally, with skis. Boots, there's a wide range of boots. Some of the boots are a little bit lighter weight. They're more flexible. The boots are designed to be pretty flexible this way because you're really extending the foot and bending forward. Although torsionally, they're pretty rigid because you want that control. They'll have ridges on the binding and grooves in the boot, so when you put your foot down, you get a little bit more side-to-side control. There's no left and right here, so there's no left and right ski. You can put either one on either foot. And some of them, then as you go up in ski, if you start getting out of track or get into metal edges. You're going to get a little bit higher boot, a little bit stiffer boot. Some of those boots will have a built-in gaiter and a strap to give you a little more control. You start to get into insulation, and they're designed to push around that little bit wider ski, a little bit heavier ski, metal edge, maybe more turning. And there's pretty much a continuum there. And then the upper end is a backcountry. You can see the pins are heavier duty, they're wider. This is going to be matched up to a pretty wide metal edge ski like this ski right here. It's got a full length metal edge. This ski is going to take a boot like this to be able to control it. You put on a wider backcountry binding. This would be your Hummer, for around here. And this wouldn't be, if you're going to buy one pair of skis, this probably wouldn't be it. It's kind of fun to have a pair of these, in your quiver, because there's sometimes conditions are real. They get icy, or we get a lot of snow, or you want to go up to Black Moshannon and do some hills. So that's the other end of the spectrum there with boots. These boots fit really comfortably. They should be, one of the most comfortable pieces of footwear you own. The way to fit it is you want to put on the socks that you'll wear with the boot. They're cut to allow you can wear your normal size and still wear a heavy sock. And you generally wear a heavier sock than you would in an alpine boot because you need some extra warmth. You don't have that thick liner and everything. So you put the socks on that you're normally going to wear with the boot, and you put your foot in so your toes are touching the end of the boot, not curled, but your toes are actually pushed against the end of the boot. You should be able to get one index finger behind your heel. What that means is when you pull your foot back into the heel, you have about that much space in front of your toe, which is big enough to give you good circulation, but small enough that you don't have a real sloppy boot that's moving around. So that's the best way to fit those. And you can kind of narrow in on sizing with the Brannock, but it's really about people putting the boots on. The boots are arguably the most important piece of gear, and that's true if you're winter backpacking, if you're alpine skiing or anything. So what is best is to, while you can do a real quick review of skis and then put on some boots that would fit the type of skiing the person's going to do. And then they can walk around and they can be wearing the boots for quite a while in the store, talking about skis and doing other things, and really get a feel, because you may want to try on 2 or 3 pairs and spend some time in them in the store. And that's a good way to do it, is get these on your feet early in the process. Your feet swell a little bit during the day, so it's usually better to try on shoes, mid-afternoon or later, because your foot's going to be a little bit bigger size and a higher volume, than earlier in the day. And then there's some different binding systems. They're all step-in. This is this is Salomon's ProLink, which is very similar now to the NNN system, the New Nordic Norm. The New Nordic Norm is a different system than the old Salomon Profeel. So you have to be careful because they look really similar, but they're not. So this is a step-in binding, then you release by using your pole or pressing here. Fisher has Rossi too. This is the Turnmatic system. This is also a step-in system, and you get out of the ski like this, and you lock this. You can step in like this and lock it, or you can lock the binding and actually step in here. So it's pretty handy. You get a really tight connection. You want to really keep these as free of snow as you can when they're not on your feet, so that it doesn't ice up and make it really difficult to get in there. And then, you guys have any questions? Did I miss anything so far? Okay. Yeah.
I was just wondering, in the range of ski selections that we have, I was wondering about the rentals that we carry, what they are like in that selection, and sort of what they'd be best for.
Well, a lot of them are going to be the
I don't know if we have any up here.
Salomon. We have them on the rack over there. This is probably the closest. They're they're between a light touring and a general touring. You know, most people are going to go out on the golf course. Even if you go out behind Rothrock and the fire roads, it's pretty well packed. If you get on the Lawnberger, get on some trails. It doesn't take long for the snow to be on the ground till there's tracks there. You know, people get out pretty early. But this would work. You could take this anywhere from a general golf course. You could go up to Black Moshannon and ski the ski, you know, pretty easily. And there's wide range of, I think there's 3 sizes in this that'll fit almost all weight ranges, from a small adult to a really big adult.
A lot of our rentals are like the second to last pair at the back there, those Fishers.
Yeah, that's another ski. We had some of these Evos on rental. Did that answer your question, Sequoia?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then poles are probably, you know, the easiest. Most people are fine with a really basic fiberglass or metal pole. The in-track poles will have a smaller basket because the snow is going to be groomed and harder packed, and you don't want a big basket catching. If you're going to ski more in untracked snow, you're going to go to a little bit larger, you know, basket on the ski. The straps are adjustable, so if you have a lightweight glove or a big mitten, depending on how cold it is, they're adjustable real easily through this mechanism at the top. You want to remind people, this is like an alpine pole also. You go up underneath the strap and down over, and the strap is doing the work for you. A lot of people will put a pole on like this, and then they have to grip the grip all the time. So it's really, the strap is really there to do the work for you. The way to fit these is they should fit snugly under your armpit. This is probably 140 or 145. If you're just standing there, they're going to be just below the top of your shoulder. And that's a correct fit for Nordic, which is a lot longer than you would fit an alpine pole. And there's a range of prices. We have a lot in the, you know, the basic $25, you know, pole, and it's really good for, you know, most conditions. They go up into cork, you know, grips and things like that. Wider, you know, powder baskets. If you're going to ski a lot of backcountry, again, you know, if you ski a lot, you're going to have 2 sets of poles, you know, for different conditions. The skis, well, you're either going to have a waxable ski that has a totally smooth base, like an alpine ski from top to bottom, or you can have a waxless ski that's going to have some sort of pattern in the middle. The patterns that are cut into the ski are a negative pattern. The patterns that are extruded and stick out from the ski are positive. They each have different benefits, you know, to them. This just glides a little better, not quite as noisy. The other one grips better, makes a little more noise, but you can get uphill, you know, easier. But the ski, because of the camber and the flex, when you push down on the ski, you're putting 110% of your body weight here to grip. And then when you're gliding, your weight share between your 2 skis, the weight gets transferred to the tip and tail for glide. In a waxable ski, you're going to wax the whole ski for glide, then you're going to put a grip wax in the middle, which does the same thing. The wax grips the snow. I brought some wax with me. If you want to, I'll do a quick, you know, pair of skis for you, show you how to do it.
What's the purpose of the groove that's cut like lengthwise in front of the grip?
For tracking,
Okay.
helps the ski track a little bit. Hard to, it's like the keel on a boat. You're actually skiing on a real thin film of water, you know, when you're skiing, especially in alpine. It's really interesting. If you don't, these skis don't take a lot of treatment, but if you don't treat them, you could easily get snow sticking to this pattern. And boy, it's a pain when it happens, when you're out there. So the best way is to prevent it. And the way to do that is by using MaxiGlide. This is Teflon particles in like a thick oil. And all you have to do is wipe this on real quickly. You can do, takes you 30 seconds to do, you know, one ski. And that'll keep snow, it'll give you glide here, and it'll keep snow from sticking here. You could never put wax on this because you're gonna clog the pattern. So that's what MaxiGlide is good for. I'll sometimes put a little on the top of the ski and over the binding, because you want to keep snow from sticking here. The MaxiGlide's great. This used to be made here in State College. They had a big fire downtown where they made it, and they used to drive to Snowshoe every day to get their mail, so they could use a Snowshoe address. It was pretty cool. I think they're in Boston now, but it's a really good product. Been around for a long time and still the best thing to do. This you really need to do that every time you go out because it gets worn off. When you're waxing your skis, it takes a lot longer to do, but the wax stays on longer. It's like more work in, more benefit out. This is quick and easy, but you need to do it more often. But it's really easy to do. It's better, especially if you're going to wax your skis. It's better that your skis are cold when you put them on. Now you can bring your skis indoors and wax them indoors, but you don't want to take them outside and put them in the snow right away because your ski's warm, your wax is warm. You could have the right wax, but it's going to stick. So you want to get your skis cold before you just when you get dressed, put them in the garage, or something. It doesn't take long for that base to get pretty cold, but you don't want to go out on a warm ski like that. You want a warm boot, but you don't want a warm ski. So that's how to do that. I guess we have a pair of skis here. Clothing, I find you can dress as though you're going to go for a walk and it's 20 degrees warmer, is what I found to be a really rough guideline. You'd be surprised how little clothing you can wear cross-country skiing, and it's not about big heavy layers. It's sometimes you just need a windbreaker to do it, but you need really breathable clothing. And it depends. If you're just going out on the golf course, nothing much matters. You probably wear blue jeans actually. But if you're going to go out, I've had some episodes in Seven Mountains getting lost and skiing in the dark, and things happen in the winter. So you want to wear more layers, lighter layers, just like if you were going out for a really aggressive hike or something. And you have to be really careful. A lot of times when you first start out, you're going to be overdressed, and as soon as you start to sweat, you have to stop and take the time to peel those layers off. Once you get wet, it's really not good situation. You could get a lot colder. It may not be a big factor, but if you get out for longer than you thought, and you made a wrong turn, and you're out for an hour or two longer than you thought, and now you're getting really cold. So that's why being really careful to have the right layers. Sometimes you're only skiing for 100 or 200 yards and you start to overheat. But you have to be disciplined enough to take those layers off, right then. So it's good to carry a pack with you. I carry a couple of different light sources. I carry a couple of different ways to start a fire. I carry an emergency blanket. Stuff's really light. You can carry a little miniature stove and a metal cup and some Swiss Miss packets, Whistle, I wouldn't go out without a whistle. You can blow a whistle a lot longer than you can scream, and it's heard for a distance. Things like that can really make a difference in your comfort level, safety, and even survival. So places to go, my goodness. The thing about living here is it's got the most, when we get snow, it's got the most amazing cross-country skiing. Anywhere, like I said, from the golf courses to the game lands to Rothrock to Black Moshannon. We'll drive up to, there's a Penfield is the highest point on Route 80 east of the Mississippi. It's about an hour away. And you get maybe 3 miles from there, 2 miles from there, and there's no snow. And you get to that little peak and there's a foot of snow up there for a couple square miles, not very big. But it's, people are used to driving to downhill ski, but maybe not to cross country. You drive a little bit for cross country and you can find, some great trails. Shavers Creek has some groomed trails. I think Crystal Lake might still be in business up in Montoursville. There's a few places that really have some nice trail systems to go out on. So we can wax a pair of skis here for you. These are wooden skis, but some of the waxable skis are fiberglass with these synthetic PTEX bases. Used to be, when we first started selling skis back in the 70s, this was 90% of the skis we sold, you know? They were wood waxable skis, and like I said, used pine tar to treat this base. 90% of our skis were wood, 90% were waxable, because the waxless bases weren't nearly as good back then, and the industry went through one iteration after another of trying to get something, to work really well. These are old 3-pin bindings. You really don't see these anymore. I think last year might have been, or 2 years ago was the last year, I think we stocked these boots. The company stopped making them. There was a left and a right. There's a duck bill here. The pin's pulled out. They don't get as much control. There's left and the right, like I said. And you don't have much, heel control. But they're great classic skis. This is a really good, it's a Norwegian wooden ski. It's a lot of workmanship in there. But it's the same to wax, whether it's wood or fiberglass. Wood skis are a little more forgiving to a so-so wax job. But so we want to get a grip wax for the middle, and you want to know if you're dealing with. There's actually a 2-wax system that covers all conditions, or you can go to like a 5 or 6 wax system that narrows the temperature bands down. The 2-wax system is wet and dry snow. Wet snow is a good snowball. Dry snow, it just crumbles in your hand. And then you really need to, if it's new snow, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but if it's new snow, the crystals are really sharp. So at the same temperature, you can use a harder wax because the crystals will dig into the wax. If it's old snow at that same temperature, you're going to need a softer wax because the crystals aren't as sharp digging in. And you're looking at air temperature, not snow temperature. Snow temperature is pretty consistent. If you ever slept in a snow cave, they're toasty. It's a really good insulator. So it's air temperature. So the wet and dry snow are really easy to tell. It's almost above and below 32. The multi waxes, you'll need to know whether it's new snow or old snow and air temperature, and that's it. And then you find, I need a blue wax. So you're going to put blue wax on the middle third of the ski. So once you pick your wax, I can explain that more to you. We should have, do we have any waxing charts handy, I wonder? Let's just use, there's a blue wax, there's green, there's yellow, red, and they're all different temperature waxes. The red's pretty soft. This blue is, let me find one that's open here. So it's good if you're, the wax is easier to put on if it's at room temperature. So if you have this wax in your house, these are foil containers. You just peel it off till you get enough wax exposed. And it's better if you just go in one direction rather than back and forth so it doesn't clump up. So you're gonna take this middle third of the ski and you're gonna put a good layer of wax on, both sides of that groove. Down to, you're gonna be just in front of your toe and you're gonna go just behind your heel, with that. And so I would wax that whole thing. And then you wanna rub that wax out. When you're rubbing the wax out, you can go in both directions. There's a synthetic cork. This is a natural cork. You can use the palm of your hand. But what you want to do is buff that wax out. And what that does is it really forces it into the base. And it creates a harder finish to it, so it won't wear off as quickly. And then you would already have the tip, the whole ski waxed for glide. So all we're doing is putting this grip wax in the middle third of the ski. If you're going up a really long hill in the beginning, you may want to put it on a little thicker. I've even taken the wax and drawn steps on the ski because there are some waxless skis that are step skis. And if you do this, you'd be surprised how much grip. You get to the top of a long hill, a lot of this is smoothed out and worn out. Then you get a nice lot of grip on a flat, and then you're going downhill. And once you start the ski moving, this isn't going to grip. It really needs to be stopped and pushed into the snow. So, and with waxless skis, you sometimes you may be out and you're not getting quite enough grip for one reason or another. So what I'll do is I'll sometimes take grip wax with me, and I'll wax in front of the pattern a few inches and behind the pattern for a few inches. And that aids this pattern in gripping. And it'll usually be in older snow that gets a little crusty. You have a long uphill. It's really annoying sliding backwards, going up a long uphill. Conditions like that. You have to be careful. Sometimes you'll ski under, it'll be really cold out and snow will be really dry, and then you ski under a pine tree and it's really wet. And all of a sudden you ski out into the dry snow and it's gonna clump there. So you want to take a scraper with you. It's better, you can use a metal scraper here, but you have to be really careful. You're better off using a plastic scraper. Take it with you. If you get a snow buildup, you can scrape it off. You can put, once you put Maxi-Glide on these skis, you really can't wax them. It's so slippery. But if you take your Maxi-Glide with you, you can always, halfway through your trip, you can just put it, just touch up, your ski again if you forgot to do it in the beginning or didn't maybe put enough on, something like that. But Maxi-Glide just wipes on. It doesn't have to, you don't have to buff it out or anything. It just wipes on and you're ready to go. Wow, half an hour, that's pretty fast. Usually we're here a little bit longer. What else? It's really a simple technique. It's really walking. This is cross-country skiing. It's really a simple technique. It's called a diagonal stride because you're putting your left foot and your right arm forward. A lot of people, sometimes people start out this, it's called pass gang, when you're teaching it, but it's a diagonal stride. This is the motion, right here. Sometimes if you hold your poles in your hands, you get into the natural rhythm with it. And also when you go uphill, it tends to get you into more of a rhythm because you have, resistance as you go. But we ski almost every day. You're welcome to come out with us. You get rental skis you can use. And if you learn a couple tips in the beginning, there's some pretty simple stuff you can learn. It's really good to learn how to fall, how to get up, what to do with your poles when you're going downhill. You can put your poles between your legs and use them as a brake, but you don't want to have your poles out here when you're going downhill. You want to have them down and back and, learn how to fall off this. Falling's a legitimate technique around here. If you're going down a trail and you really get moving more than you wanted to. These are gaiters, you guys all know. I don't wear these very often. My snow pants seal at the bottom, and it doesn't matter how deep the snow is even pushing against your knees. It's usually not a big deal. But again, it depends on if you're going up to Black Mow for 3 hours or if you're going up in the golf course for 45 minutes. You got to think about being dressed. When the Norwegians say there's no bad weather, just bad clothing. So you don't want to get caught out there. So these are waterproof in the bottom, breathable on the top, and they seal real well. The instep strap keeps it, underneath there. When the conditions get bad, you just grab a pair of snowshoes. And it can be crusty and icy. It's like almost like styrofoam. And the snowshoes with those crampons, you can just go. You don't need a trail. You just go right up the side of the mountain. It's actually fun, when skiing gets to the point where snow gets too old, things like that. Is there anything else that you had questions about, or?
What would you say the most versatile setup between boot and ski here for the average cross-country skier getting started would be?
It's like a lot of things. It's like the alpine world. it's very price related, you know. So you're going to be looking at a mid range. You know, we have entry level packages, and I don't think I really talked about this. What's really important is when you go into a store, the first thing people ought to do is start asking you a lot of questions. You know, do you think you'll ski often? Have you skied already? How much? Where do you think you're going to ski? What other sports do you participate in? Do you have an idea? You know, have you shopped around and kind of identify them? Because some people haven't skied. They may not go out often. They don't do a lot of other sports, but they want to try cross country. So they're going to go into more of a basic entry level package because they're going to be that beginner for a while. Whereas the person standing beside them, they mountain bike, they run, excuse me, they plan on skiing really often. They're going to be a different skier, even though they first started in a weeks. It's going to be a really short time. They're going to be a different skier. So you need to put them in the equipment that they're going to be able to ski into. So, excuse me, the questions are what's really important to qualify what is the best thing for somebody. So, that being said, the best package for around here is that general touring package with a little bit of an upgrade boot, maybe an upgrade pole. That ski is going to have a waist measurement of maybe 53, 54, 55 millimeters. Okay, tip's going to be in the 60s. It's going to have some side cuts, going to be a little bit wider. Probably no, excuse me, no metal edges, you know, for most people. But that would be the ski for the person that step above, you know, the novice. And then somebody who wants to maybe go out in the woods a little more and break trail and, you know, be out in marginal conditions, you may want to get them into a 3/4 metal edge ski. So that would be the next step. So you have your entry level packages, which are your lower. It'd be the Alpina entry level boot, and like the Solomon, I think, or the Rossi Evos are like an entry level. And then the next person is going to go into a little bit wider general touring ski. They're going to go up to a little bit more boot. And then the next person is going to want, I have a 3/4 metal edge ski. It's a little more to push around, but you get a lot better performance out of it, and it's really more durable if the snow's thin and you're hitting more rocks. So that would be the next ski up, and that's how we buy them. We have this less expensive beginner package. Then we have the upgraded general touring package, which would be for most people, and then the 3/4 metal edge ski. And those three packages fit 80% of the people coming in the door. After that, you'd go to a full metal edge ski, you know, a heavier boot would be the way to go. And the prices are corresponding. So you'd be into a less, you know, in fact, we should really match these packages up, you know, because there's logical combinations of this boot with this ski, you know, and such a pole. I'd be happy to do that with you guys in the next couple of days. That was a good question. Did that answer your question? Okay. Excuse me. Just so you know, I don't want to get into this very much, but this is Clister. This is like honey or molasses. And it's really meant for old snow and really icy conditions. And sometimes the tracks get totally iced up. They're almost like railroad rails, no friction. This stuff is amazing because it grips, but when you start that ski moving, there's no friction, you know, with it. It's kind of messy to put on, and I'm not going to do a ski, but you have to do it indoors because this gets really hard when it goes out. But you put this on in a bead, and then you flatten that bead out. So that's Clister skiing. It's for older snow and really icy conditions. We should have some 2-wax systems. The dry snow wax actually works as a universal Clister. So you can actually use one wax for all those, you know, below 32 and above 32. without getting into you know, a lot of different color-coded waxes. And then, you know, Swix has, you know, this F4 for, you know, Glide. There's some different things that are available. Anything else? Trying to think, did I miss anything? What was something peripheral that I might have? We talked a little bit about places to go, a little bit about clothing.
Just to clarify, would you do any of that waxing of blister at all ever on a waxless ski, other than you mentioned a bit? The more
No, you'd never want to put that clister on a waxless ski
That makes sense, yeah.
unless you wanted to go to a lot of work to get it off, because you'd have to get that solvent. You'd have to use a solvent to get that off the entire pattern. There's really never a time. I actually have a really old pair of waxless skis that are almost smooth, so I wax them. And I found that with my waxable skis, I virtually never scrape or clean them. I just put the next wax of the day on top, and it works really well, because the other wax gets polished and, you know, worn off, and you can kind of work with that. But that would be the only time that I would do it. If your pattern is so worn that it's not gripping anymore, then you could do that. You could put a wax on there. That's where MaxiGlide comes in, because it's more of a paste. It doesn't fill in those patterns. Did you have a question, Sam?
Yeah, I may have missed this, but what are materials for skis and how they might differentiate?
These fiberglass skis are mostly wood or foam. There's not a lot of fiberglass in here. The fiberglass is just so strong that they don't have to use a lot of it. I could stand on this tip. I broke a pair of skis doing that once, so I'm kind of, but it's hard to snap these skis. They will really flex a lot. So the core, depending on the skis, will be a lot of wood or foam with 1 or 2 fiberglass, you know, laminates in it. Like I said, the fiberglass is a lot heavier than those other materials, but it takes so little of it to make the ski super strong. And the incidence of breakage is pretty slim, where we used to break wood skis, you know, all the time. But they have, this is, oh God, I'm pulling a blank. It's not phenolic. There's an extruded base and a sintered base. The extruded bases are liquid when they come out of the mold, and they set up then. The sintered base is a much harder material, and it comes on a hard wheel, and they slice layers of it off a wheel. So a sintered base is more expensive, a lot harder. It doesn't hold wax quite as well, but you get a lot more. Most of these are sintered bases, especially when you have a negative pattern cut into it, because you need something that's really durable, you know, for wear. And that's what you get in the better skis. You get an extruded base in a really inexpensive ski. You get a sintered base in a better ski. Then you have a layer of fiberglass. Then you either have your foam or wood. They'll sometimes put a reinforcement in the sidewall where this is a, you know, wear point. So is the top edge. Not exactly sure what this is, but there used to be layers up through the sidewall and a separate sidewall. Then they went to this monocoque design. It came from Formula One race cars, and that's when you see the top sheet actually wraps around and forms the sidewall. There's not a top sheet and layers in a separate sidewall, and that was a weaker system. I think the monocoque's easier to manufacture too, so they found a, you know, selling point for it. But it's torsionally really rigid, and it eliminates the sidewall, because your top sheet and your sidewall are all the same material, which is a really durable material. So you see that, you see it more in alpine skis. But this is a wraparound, so you don't have that separate material to come out. That you were asking about construction. Then you get into, you know, the backcountry skis. You're just going to get. I don't think this has a metal sheet. Sometimes they put a metal plate underneath the binding area to keep the binding from pulling out, because that's a big issue if you're in the backcountry and your bindings pull. Bindings will break, but it's a no-no to have them pull out of the ski. This might have a thin metal binding plate, but other than that, it's got a little more fiberglass in it, full metal edges. It's going to be a heavier ski built with, you know, more durable materials. It's got a wraparound sidewall, you know, also. You're starting to get into quasi-alpine technology when you get in here, because it's a wider ski, full metal edges, things like that. So they start to filter some of that technology down into, you know, the backcountry skis. And then it's a continuum. From here you go into your wider, you know, where you might still put a backcountry binding on. Then you're going to start getting into alpine touring equipment and telemark, and eventually you're going to be right into alpine, you know, equipment. The line starts to get blurred, you know, up there, because I telemark ski on an alpine ski. You can, you know, the skis aren't that much different, really. How you doing tonight? John, yeah, how are you?
Good.
Now there's a guy that's been skiing his whole life. Or longer, yeah. Got some weather coming in, so. No, last winter was truly the worst winter I think we've ever had. So we're due. We've been due for a while. So I think you're gonna see some white on top of the mountains in the next day or two, anyhow. So it's coming. We're going to have a football game on December 20th or 21st probably here. It's kind of crazy. I hope it's Miami. They have to come up and play. I hope it's an SEC team. That'll be a good one. I think that covers a lot of it. I'd be happy to go over waxing with you more, or ski care. The guys in the shop are really good. You know, they about, you know, prepping skis, taking care of them. You got to be careful jamming them in the snowbanks, because it's really tough on the tail. It's better to not take them into your garage and sit them on the floor. Sometimes there's a lot of chemicals in concrete, and it sits in a water puddle, and then it draws up through the you know, the tail of the ski. So it's better to, you know, store them up off the ground if you can. It's better to not store them clamped together, because they have that camber and the flex. So you don't want to store them clamp. The worst thing would be to clamp them together and put them in your attic for the summer. You know, that would be, it would just take that camber and flex out of the ski. So just, you know, you can store them up on pegs or something. But if you keep them out of, you know, sitting in puddles of water, you know, storage. And in the summer, it's not a bad idea to just get some wax on the base to protect it from oxidizing, just like we do with alpine skis. We'll do a hot wax and we won't scrape it. So when fall rolls around, scrape your skis are ready to go. But the wax protects them from oxidation and rust. If they have metal edges at all, it'll protect them from rusting, you know, in the summer. So taking care of them that way is, you don't want to dry these next to a heat source. You know, you're camping, your feet are cold, you have leather boots on, you try to heat your feet up by the campfire. By the time your feet are warm, your sole is melted off your boot. We probably all done that as little kids. So you can stuff newspaper in here, open them up, let them air dry at home. We have some boot dryers downstairs. But these built-in gaiters are pretty handy. And this hook in the front is for the gaiter to clip on, which is why that's there. John, you got anything to add? You've been at it for a while.
Well, I hope there's snow. There is a website called Nittany Nordic. We don't do much on it, but people post their trips and talk about snow conditions. So it's on Facebook.
Yeah, okay. We're going to post conditions this year, I think, because we go out almost every day, and we can usually find, if there's snow anywhere, we can usually find it. And I think we're going to start doing that too. So there'll be information if people want to know where the snow is. We'll have that handy for them.
Just to add, I think on some of the DCNR websites for like different state parks, they post like snow conditions
Does Greenwood and Whipples and
Pretty sure, I remember, I think I checked for Black Shannon last year. and they
Yeah,
had,
all
like,
this,
snowpack
DCNR has for every state park the number of ground coverage.
number of inches in ground cover?
I did that last year when I was out finding stuff.
Yeah, I've never used that. That's valuable,
Yeah.
especially Black Mountain. I mean, there'd be no snow down here, and there'd be a foot of snow up there or more. It's crazy. The elevation makes such a difference. And even behind Rothrock, you know, there won't be much snow in Tussey parking lot. Quarter mile back, there'd be a little bit, another quarter mile, another quarter of a mile, another quarter of a mile. By the time you get back in there, especially on the north-facing slopes, one side of the road will be bare, that's facing south, and the north-facing slope will be covered in snow.
Jeff,
So-
can you talk about the groom places?
Not really. You know, I don't know if Crystal Lake's still around. I guess they closed.
They're selling off,
and-
they're selling off their skis.
Are they?
Closed, yeah.
Shavers Creek used to do some grooming. We bought that human-powered groomer for Tudick Park with Howard Pillett. Is that still around?
I don't know.
Do you know some groomed areas locally?
Not locally, Laurel Ridge State Park is groomed by the Rupel family. Laurel Mountain is groomed by the Pittsburgh cross-country skiers. And then there's Wilderness Lodge up by Erie.
Yeah, okay. So you're going on the other side of Somerset into where Seven Springs is. The Laurel, they get a lot of snow there in Laurel Mountains. Yeah. Blue Knob State Park has some.
Yes, Blue Knob as well.
Blue Knob has some snow a lot of times when there's not snow here. Yeah.
There's, snowmobile around the lower course there.
Yeah. Guess it might rain tonight, huh? I got a couple extra seats in the car. I'll drop you guys off if you want. If anybody needs a ride, we'll have to see who has to go the furthest. That's who gets the seats, right?